To another episode of the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. I'm your brother Ogar from Hip Hop News Uncensored. Sitting across from me is my co-host.
What up, y'all? It's your man SamAnt, Hip Hop News. We're in the building for a special edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. We got a special guest in the building.
Yeah,
the Wellness Mogul himself. Dame is in the building. Dame, how you doing today, family?
What's up, guys? Good to be here.
Great to have you, man. So, obviously, you're doing your thing on the IG, man. You're giving great knowledge, providing great information out here for the people as far as nutrition, history of nutrition, what to eat, what not to eat, as well as the numerous other things that you have going on, man. It's definitely appreciated what you got going on. Just talk to us real quick about the climate in DR. How is it out there with the current pandemic and everything that we're going through? How is it out there in DR?
Well, the climate is pretty... For example, like in the United States, you guys probably have, it's probably a little bit more loose than it is here. Like, for example, our borders are closed, so nobody can come into the country, nobody can get out. Some Americans, you can fly out maybe if you have a ticket home, but nobody really has tickets. So it's one major airport in the country that everybody's flying out of right now, and that's in Santo Domingo. So there, they may have a flight out once a week, once every 2 weeks, depending upon how many people need to leave. They're not just going to fly out with 5 people on the plane. So that's another thing. So right now, my business partner, he's here with me, and he's been waiting on the flight for about 2 months, man, a month and a half. He's been waiting on the flight. And then we have the 5 o'clock curfew, which is tough. So I mean, it's a bit of a strain. Everywhere you go, you got supermarkets, you got a 2 or 3 hour wait. The banks, you might have a 3 to 4 hour wait for the bank. So all of it is it's a little bit of a strain, and everybody here they follow the rules pretty much to the T. So you can't really go outside without wearing the mask. I don't really wear it outside unless I'm about to walk into the store or something like that. But you can go to jail for it here. They're taking you away if you have that mask on.
Right. So I'll ask you, how serious would you think the virus is for healthy people? Because we see a lot of people, that have predisposed conditions, the elderly people, but like somebody like that's in shape and eating right, is it really a worry for you as well?
I respect all things, but not something that I'm absolutely worried about. And the reason is because it's all for me, just for me personally. I don't know about the mainstream media or the hoopla. I hear a lot of different things going around, but just to keep it simple, it's just about my immune system, keeping myself pretty strong, because the body you actually need germs, pathogens to get stronger. So the body has to have that. So locking myself in the house, considering the circumstances, is not the best thing, because especially if I got 4 or 5 people, I'm not getting fresh air, which is necessary. If you get sun, that will be necessary. So just getting out. Right now, you're inside. A lot of people are inside, and that is not beneficial to them. That's why a baby should always go outside, to grow up. You play in the dirt, because the body builds the system up to be able to fight those things off. So I'm not saying that you run out haphazardly, but you got to understand that if we're doing as best we can, we're hedging the bet. Let me say that, hedging the bet that things are not going to happen to you. So I feel my best when I'm outside in the sun, not when I'm inside. So it's not really a worry. I mean, I do my oregano, my oranges, I do different things. So I don't really look at it as something that's imminent for myself, but I still respect it.
Facts. In the mainstream media, you hear all kind of shit about this virus. You hear everything on what to do, what to buy to fight this virus, but you hear nothing about what to put inside the body, anything about proper nutrition. Can you school the people and our listeners on some of the things that we should be putting in our bodies and things that are beneficial given these times right now, and just throughout all of our time, just to strengthen the immune system in general?
Right. So let's just start with the basics. The basic, I feel like all of this information, all this knowledge, people have gotten too fancy. It's like hooping right now. Hooping, you're doing all these bands and all this crazy work, man. Just hoop, do your squats, do your push-ups, do your sit-ups, do your bench press. You kept it basic back then. You didn't have all that stuff. So the same thing I would say for now. You're looking for something in a bottle per se. Is not really the answer, because you weren't born with medicine. You weren't born with stuff in a bottle. You were born with the natural things of the earth. So the first things, let's start with the things you can do that don't cost you any money, because a sickness, an illness usually is about what you stop doing, not what you start taking or what you start doing. It's usually the habit. The cure is usually in the habit. So I would say the first thing you got to do is you got to go to sleep for a good hour, man. A lot of people do not go to bed early, and they don't get that critical sleep for melatonin production between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So a lot of people are eating late. So let's say you eat at 11 and then you go down. Well, your body is still digesting it. That's a lot of pressure on your stomach. So number one, I wouldn't eat 3 hours before I went to bed. Number two, I would get to bed at a good hour, man. You really got to get into that sleep. That sleep is where the body makes the repairs at. So if you're not getting the rest, you can't make the repairs, and your immune system is not going to be strong enough. The other thing is you need enough water. The body is pretty much like 80%, 70% water. Let's say 70%, give or take who you are. Some people are less, but 75% water. So if you're not drinking enough water in and of itself, you're going to be at a deficit. If you look at all conditions, most conditions, at the bottom of them is either dehydration or malnutrition. The other thing is you need enough antioxidants in the system. You need enough things so that the body can build back on. This is why eating a processed food is not really good for you, because your body is not made of processed food, just like your body is not made of pharmaceutical drugs. So a drug per se won't really heal you. A drug will knock out a system in the body to make you think that it's working, but like an anti-inflammatory does not cure the condition. It just knocks out the pain, which eats the lining of the gut, of the kidneys. It bothers it in so many different ways. So I would keep it really simple as much as I can and get a lot of vitamin C in. Vitamin C is good to build up the system to fight off stress. See, the whole thing is about your gut, man. If your body is under stress so much, that means that the body is going to have to allocate different resources outside of your body. Think about it like this. When you're in the hood, you're getting chased by a pit bull. Your body is going to put everything it can, and all you got is an 8-foot fence in front of you to get over. Your body is going to put everything it can to help you get away from that pit bull. Even if you got diabetes right now, do you want your body to allocate the resources to diabetes, or do you want it to allocate the resources to getting over this fence? Most people want to say getting over the fence. And the reason, and think about it, when people live in stress their whole life, their entire lives, that's what that's like. All of the resources have left your immune system, and they're in your arms, they're in your legs, they're in your body trying to fight off all of this stress. So you really got to watch that stress, and vitamin C is a big thing to helping against the stress, because the immunity is the key to all of this, your immune system.
How do you feel about the consumption of meat? Because we had a lot of people on here who have been against it. We also have people on here that said you can get certain protein from it. Our ancestors have been eating that, forms of meat forever. What's your take on actual meat?
My take is really simple, man. People always ask me, "What are you?" And I don't really have a name, because I'm going to survive. I'm a survival area. So when somebody starts talking this way, you eat. All of the people that I've known, let me just talk about me personally, and the people that I've studied up to this point, they ate some meat. The people that live to be 100 years or 95 years and all that, they've eaten meat. My grandfather is 90 right now. He doesn't eat a lot of meat, but he does eat some meat, and it's a more natural meat. What I would say is this: while everybody is different, because a lot of people like to use the grandmothers that smoke and drink and live to be 95 when they want to do bullshit, when they want to do BS. This is how they use to justify to do the BS. They'll talk about an anomaly, one family member that did all this stuff and that lived to be 95, and they forget the other 1,000 family members that died at 60 doing that same thing. So ideally, all I'm going to say is, in terms of the meat, I would deal with a cleaner meat if that's what I was going to do, and I wouldn't do it more than 2 or 3 times a week. That's a lot. That's like 2 or 3 times a week is a lot. The whole protein thing, sure, you're going to be able to get some things from it, but 9 times out of 10, you're talking about some flesh that's already dead. So essentially, what you are, for the most part, is you basically become a cemetery for that meat. So it's not about veganism. It's not about vegetarianism. It's not about being a carnivore. It's really just about health. So that's why I don't have a name. Sometimes your body might need some of that. And if you're going to deal with, I always say bake, broach, poach, stew, because you're already heating it up. So you're already changing the composition of what you're going to consume. So just from that alone, it's not going to be like a lion or something else that will consume it fully raw, and you're eating parts of the meat. See, we think that protein comes in a leg or a thigh. You're going to get some stuff from it, but protein comes in the full animal. It doesn't come in like a wing or a leg or a thigh. You never see a lion like they like, well, we're just going to eat this part right here. No, they're eating everything. They're eating it as is, whole. So the whole protein, the whole meat thing, some people may really need it. I mean, to be honest with you, it may have to happen that way. But I don't think that you need a lot of meat. And I think that meat should be the cleanest meat. It should not be meat that's dealing with grains, because grains is what causes the inflammatory conditions. A cow is not meant to deal with grains like that.
Let's have a conversation about protein. When you said protein, it made me want to talk about it, because there's a big misconception about it. You see it in the schools now, part of the food group, damn it, protein. Talk about the misconceptions of protein, how much the body actually needs, and is it doing more harm than good to the human body? Consumption of it.
Yeah. Well, when you say protein, most people are thinking meat. So protein is necessary by the body, which is funny to me, because when we start talking about the fast food restaurants and all that, I'm not going to these fast food restaurants ordering a double burger or ordering this chicken, whatever I'm ordering. I'm not going there saying to myself, I need my protein. I'm going there saying, this tastes good and I want some of it right now. So for me, the whole protein thing is the body is smart enough, probably the most sophisticated machine on the earth. The body is going to pick out the things that it needs. Protein is not even number one on the list. The number one on the list is the sugars, because the brain is going to run on the sugars. And then you got the fats and the proteins. So ideally, if you feel like you need, if let's say you're a weightlifter, because a lot of people lift weights. I always tell people bodybuilding is a man-made thing. So this whole thing about you got to eat 6 times a day to get big, well, the creator didn't create us to get into bodybuilding. That's something that man made. So if that's what you're doing, then you probably are going to need to eat 6 meals a day, or however much meat you want to eat. I hear some of the crazy stories that they're doing. And I probably used to eat along those lines, but I wasn't bodybuilding. I was just, into sports. So the whole thing about you need this protein, the body is going to search out, it's going to find things, whether it's beans, whether it's nuts, whether it's seeds, whether it's a pork chop. The body is going to take what it absolutely needs to put you back together. So protein, you can get the protein from many different things, but we have to stop acting like protein is the primary thing that the body needs, because it's not. The body needs everything equally. If you just concentrate on protein, usually you're talking about animal products. What you're going to have is you're going to have the clogged arteries. You're going to have these health conditions, because while your muscles may get bigger, while your body may get bigger, it's going to multiply other things. It may multiply cancer, because it's not going to differentiate between, oh, this is a good cell, this is a cancer cell. Let me multiply this good cell, but I'm not going to multiply this bad cell. It doesn't work like that. It's multiplying or whatever. It's like whatever I see, I'm multiplying. So I wouldn't get too caught up. I don't eat worrying about protein. People always ask those questions. I don't believe in counting carbs. I don't even know what all this. I'm like, man, you don't really need a calculator to eat. That's just not my thing.
I want to ask you, you talked about sugar and that, what you were talking about, the difference between processed sugar and natural sugar. Like, as opposed to somebody eating processed food, you know, getting that, then eating fruits and stuff like that.
Yeah. This is probably one of the top questions that people ask. And many people are of the notion that fruit sugar is going to be the same as all sugar. And it's really different, because when you're consuming that fruit sugar, and this is if you're type 2 diabetic and you're watching this, you have to understand that your doctor studied medical care. Your nutritionist studies nutrition. Those are two different people, two different paradigms. So your doctor is going to give you things from a medical aspect, not necessarily from a nutrition aspect. So fruit is not bad for a type 2 diabetic or even a type 1 diabetic, because fruit uploads into the body a different way, because that sugar is accompanied by many different things. Now, whereas if you have the processed sugar, usually that stuff is isolated. They call it white sugar. So usually it's going to be isolated, and it's going to come with starch in the form of, like, let's say if you eat a biscuit, or let's say if you eat one of those donuts, that's going to be accompanied with those things. And that's what's going to make it even harder for the body to digest. And that's what's going to dehydrate you. Fruit sugar is in its perfect form. It's coming in the fruit, but people, they're thinking that the sugar is isolated. And I'm always saying, well, why are you just talking about the sugar in the fruit? Why is it that you just ask about that? Why don't you ask about the polyphenols? Why don't you ask about the calcium? Why don't you ask about the vitamin C? Fruit has a lot of different things. So don't just go in and point out that it has the sugar. It's got a lot of other things to help the absorption of the fruit sugar and everything else to become balanced. So fruit sugar is not the same as processed sugar. Two totally different things. This is refined, and this is what caused the problem. This is natural, and this right here is what the body knows how to break this down properly without taking your blood sugar through the moon. If you're a type 2 diabetic and your blood sugar is high and you may eat a sugary fruit, yeah, it may go up a little bit, but let's not act like the fruit, somebody just eating fruit is going to have high blood sugar by themselves. It doesn't work that way.